7 o'clock to roll around. We got one more minute. I'd like to try to make it stick to the official time, but there we go. I'm going to go ahead and call the Wednesday, November 8th, 2023 Nottingham Planning Board meeting to order. Before we begin, I'll have everyone introduce themselves, starting on my right.
Robert Davies, alternate.
John Moran.
Ian McKinnon.
Edward Veal.
Susan Mooney. Teresa Bascom.
Blair Haney, SRPC.
And Mr. Davies will be seated and voting tonight for Ms. Anderson. We have a number of items on the agenda tonight, and we'll take them in order. The first is a public hearing for case 22-011-SUB, Moores Road. Application from Jones and Beach Engineering on behalf of Jim Rosborough, requesting an 11-lot subdivision. Property is located on Moores Road, Nottingham, New Hampshire, and identified as tax map 72, lot 13-1. And just to clarify for anybody in here or viewing at home, this subdivision was previously approved. It was conditionally approved. The applicant, during their, has requested to meet with us for a potential change in the fire protection system that was initially approved.
I have to recuse myself from this one.
And Mr. McKinnon has recused and left the table. And
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Barry Geyer. I'm with Jones and Beach Engineers for the applicant. I think most of you were here when the project was approved. As part of the approval, the applicant had agreed to install a fire cistern on Moores Road for the 9 lots that are on Moores Road. This is not just for the 9 lots on Moores Road, but for the lots on Moores Road that and further down that don't have a fire cistern in them. Per the fire department, we depicted a fiberglass cistern on our plans. We're here tonight requesting that the board allow the cistern to be concrete. The volume of the cistern will remain the same, the hookups, etc., will all remain the same. The only difference is that our fiberglass cisterns are about 3 times the cost of a concrete cistern. We have noted that there have been concrete cisterns that have been approved by the board in the recent past. We have installed concrete cisterns all throughout the area without any issues. And from a maintenance and installation standpoint, we find that the concrete to be more manageable than the fiberglass. So alternatively, the applicant would request that if his request to go to a concrete cistern isn't allowed, that he would request that all the houses go to sprinkler systems with no cistern.
thank you. And I did reach out to the town administrator and fire chief to seek their input. We have an appendix within our subdivision regulations that that goes through all the specifications for cisterns and designs, and it's very technical. And that's where the fiberglass or poly comes into play. And I believe that was in the original prior fire chief's letter of recommendation. So I believe the select board had a chance to maybe discuss this, or the town administrator.
Oh, yeah, we
and the
did.
Fire chief. So I don't know if there was anything.
The select board, after our discussion on Monday night, thinks the planning board should do the due diligence of finding out which is the best for the subdivisions needed. Because we have no idea what the difference is between a fiberglass and a cement one.
Yeah.
So we're not at liberty to say which is better or not, or which is the town, because we just don't know. We have known nothing about fire of these, so
Yeah.
we weren't about to make any decision of anything that says this. And we figured, voice my opinion, that this board here, being the one board that will be directly involved with future subdivisions, cisterns, that this board should be the board that would be deciding what would be the best for a subdivision. Because, again, selectmen just, I don't know.
Sure. Yeah, and that's
I
why
mean,
we've reached out for the fire.
we
chief.
thought
Obviously,
this-
it comes from the NFPA chapter, whatever it is. So we as a board don't really have access to that, because it's something we pay for, that, and I think the fire chief has it, but I believe other towns, so I'd reached out to Mr. Haney, SRPC, and did some research myself to try to see what other towns around us are doing for cisterns and requirements, and do they require one type over another? Have there been reports? And I thought maybe this, in my mind, I thought there might have been that one about the time we adopted these regulations, that maybe the town had an issue with a specific type and had to replace prematurely, some cisterns at a cost. So if there's no record of that, then,
But there was with the Strawberry Lane, the cistern there that was concrete, the seals had to be replaced on them, and they had trouble maintaining adequate pressure during testings.
I thought there was.
And they come in, because of the seal, they come in parts, which is why it's cheaper and easier for the builders to put in, whereas the fiberglass is one piece, and it requires oversized loads to bring in, and probably a crane or something to set them up. So I did do some looking into.
How old is that system up there on Strawberry Lane?
Can't be that old, because it was Strawberry Hill was only, you're done off of Mary Hill Road, right, Strawberry Lane?
Yeah, yeah.
That was only, that was approved in my time here, so in the last 10 years.
It was within the first couple of years that it happened, and it ended up being the contractor that had to take care of that, but, I mean, we end up owning these, so,
I'd rather see the house sprinklers. Then it's up to the homeowners, it's there.
Yeah, the one side of having.
The town's not in any liability of,
Yeah, the benefit of a cistern, obviously, especially in this area of town where you have to access through Raymond to get to it, and it's a dead-end road beyond these houses. Obviously, the benefit of a cistern is that it's providing additional firefighting capacity to the other homes on this road that are not part of the subdivision, whereas sprinkler systems are gonna benefit solely the new homes that are there.
but the lake is right down the road if they needed to pump water.
Yeah, I don't-
that's only if they can get close enough to pump the water.
Well, there's a public beach at the end of the
Yeah,
road.
but you still have to be able to be within 15 feet to get the draft they need for the vehicles. So, I'm just saying, it's not always possible, especially if you're talking about wintertime or spring with all the mud. So it's not always possible, which is why they're asking for the cisterns or the sprinklers.
Well, again, I'm a fan of the sprinkler, so it doesn't matter to me.
And looking at what some of the surrounding towns around us do, we have some information from like Lee and from Stratham. It seems like a lot of towns say either or, but they go back to the NFPA standards of, that they have to meet such and such criteria. Others also require like a performance or a maintenance bond of a couple of years at least, that way if they fail within the first few years, just like if there's a new road that goes in, we require a bond for a specified number of years, that it provides for that to be able to be done at not the town's expense. And then that bond is released after whatever set period is defined.
Most of the time, you're not gonna find these things failing within the first couple of years. I think Strawberry Lane was unusual with that. But if you do have trouble with the seals further down the road, then it's up to the town at that point to take care of it. So I'm
Yeah, it becomes part of town infrastructure.
correct. I know it's a greater expense, but to me,
Well, we also find that, we put these in all around. Barrington, they're installing one currently that we designed, but we have them in Exeter, Stratham, Fremont, Epping. Never had an issue. I've been doing this for 20 years. The concrete is much easier to be repaired. There's a lot of guys that know how to work concrete. The fiberglass has to be trucked in, as you said, and I think there's only 2 places that do it. One's close to the West Coast and one's in Canada. And if there's a repair that, they break as well, and if there's a repair, it's a much harder to repair. Alternatively, the applicant would prefer to go with sprinklers rather than do either of them. But if we have to do a cistern, we would request to do a concrete.
In your experience with cistern installs, or I don't know how many years you might have for that, but have you seen, obviously the last time we updated our subdivision regs, which was when this was put in, I think it was 2015. So I don't know if like many things post-COVID, that delta has changed significantly between the cost of concrete versus poly and fiberglass, or if they've, you know,
The number of manufacturers has definitely decreased. Like I said, I think there's only 2 that actually do them this large, because you have to do a 30,000 gallon tank in North America, if my recollection is correct. And Shea Concrete can do the concrete boxes, but yes, the delta has increased, and I can't remember the last time I worked in a town that required a fiberglass or poly cistern. They've all gone to concrete, or at least giving you the option to do concrete.
so I guess that brings it back to the board for further discussion and consideration. So again, we renoticed this specifically because this is, could be considered a substantive change to the application, especially if a cistern is in the plans and designed and shown somewhere on the road. Unlike on a private road or a situation where you potentially could put the cost of it into an HOA for foreseeable future, would not fall into that category. So I think the best you could do would be to potentially require some kind of bond for it. In the towns I saw it did it, I think it was 2 years. It was pretty limited. So I don't know if that short time frame is specifically because if they're gonna fail, they're gonna fail early, if there's something intrinsically wrong with the tank. Which sounds like maybe was the case with Strawberry Hill. But it really comes back to the board for our consideration and input. So I see we have 3 avenues. One, we could stick with requiring what was approved, which is fiberglass. The applicant's recourse on that would be to potentially install it or seek zoning relief. To approve a change from poly to fiber to concrete, or alternatively to not require the cistern and to approve that the homes be sprinklered instead.
Mr. Chair, I have a question for the applicant. Mr. Guyer, what would the applicant say to consider doing a hybrid sprinkler system and also a concrete cistern? Sprinkler system would be much more immediate, considering, you know, where this property is located and how difficult it would be to get there, particularly in bad weather, but also a cistern would provide coverage for people on Moores Road that don't have coverage.
Yeah, I'm sure that he would be thinking that would be double dipping on the cost of it, because you have to add that to the cost of the house if you're doing a sprinkler systems. So that's money lost on his end, or, you know,
Or
for the
tagged on
cost
to the
of it.
front end, so to
Yeah,
speak.
or,
Yeah,
so I would think he'd want to eat one or the other.
one or the other.
Unless you decrease the size. I mean, the cistern requirement is 30,000 gallons. If you said 10,000 gallon, which, I mean, all the ones we've ever installed have been 30,000. That's kind of a typical requirement. So I don't know what, how much that would help during a, you know, fire. I don't know. I just don't know about that.
Is
But
that
putting in both would still a lot of money.
redundant? What, has the fire department chimed in on this request?
Not directly to this board. I know the town administrator, I believe, was able to connect with the fire chief, but yeah, we didn't receive anything.
Can you speak up so we can hear you?
Oh, I'm sorry, yes, of course. The question was, have we received anything from the fire chief on this? And we have not. I said, I believe there might have been discussion between the town administrator and the fire chief, but nothing to this board directly in regards to this application, or just the general overall as we're looking at updating our subdivision regs, if this is an area we should consider.
I
And
find
within-
it interesting, don't mean to interrupt you,
Oh, it's
but
good.
interesting that the fire department isn't chiming in on this. It's their jurisdiction, number one. Number two, I feel like they're passing the buck to us, so that if something happens, it's our behind on it. And I find that wrong. I just find that wrong. To me, it's a derelict of duty
I have to say,
to
I
pass
agree.
the buck to the board. We look to them to be the experts. We're not.
Well, isn't the question really here
tonight whether it's a fiberglass system or it's the cement system. Both are designed for the same thing, the capacity of holding water for a fire department to come to you,
Then
access
why
the
don't
water.
they say that?
You know, the purpose is what it is. What the applicant is really asking us, whether he can switch it for cost factor or put a sprinkler system in, which we do allow sprinkler systems in the house.
But that wasn't what was recommended by the fire department in the past, which is why this board went with that, because of the number of properties, and like we were talking about, the fact that this road is difficult to get to. So looking at trying not to access the lake and make things easier once the fire department gets there. I'm sorry, I'm just saying, personal opinion, speaking for self, I don't feel that the fire department should be passing it to us. Instead, it should have been at least a recommendation saying, I understand they're coming before you. I have no issue with them switching from fiberglass to cement, or the sprinkler systems. Either is acceptable based on our research or our knowledge or whatever. But to say nothing to us, I think is wrong. Just speaking for self.
And I do know there's obviously, you know, I'll give the, obviously there's been some transition within the fire department, so I'm sure there's still some settling in, but,
There
you know,
was some
it's definitely
trainings.
something we need to have further discussion with, because we do reach out to all town departments with applications, and we do seek the input from our town professionals before seeking external third party, especially on technical things like this, so. Mr. Guyer, can concrete, accepting with the material, the way our regulations are written, so, and I think the answer is gonna be yes, are the design standards similar? 50-year, you know, designed to last 50 years, which I believe in my research was that the concrete cisterns are, so the minimum capacity is 30,000 gallons, so that is our minimum. So going less than that, I don't think would be acceptable, and I think that has to do with the number of minutes for fire rating. But suction capacity and all those different things, you know, the ASTM schedule, which is the strength of them.
Yeah, absolutely. We can meet those requirements. Like I said, these are installed all through the region, no issues. And they basically use the same suctions and the same anti-vortex plates in the bottom of them that the fiberglass would use.
Where are you getting your information for our fire protection? Because I've looked in both site
Oh.
plan and ZO, excuse me,
I'm in the,
subdivision, and I don't see it.
I'm in the subdivision regulations. It's
On page
page
40.
104, 103, 104. 104 is where the regulations start.
104? Because
Oh,
I
I'm
have
sorry,
on
it's-
page 49,
It's towards
which
the,
says almost nothing.
yeah, in the subdivision regs. So
Subdivision.
so appendix 4 is the map of cisterns, and then appendix 5 is the fire cistern specifications. Just cut off because it's on the
Okay,
page before, but
thank you.
of course. So the way I'm leaning, again, so this road from Nottingham Fire Department is well over 5 miles away from the fire department, and I don't know the distance to Raymond. The way I'm personally leaning, having done research and online and trying to see what other towns are doing, is I'm leaning more towards allowing this concrete, but potentially requesting a 2-year bond for that. The bond has a cost to the applicant, but they get, you know, they're not, they generally aren't on the hook for that money unless it fails. And that's then similar like we do with new roads, like I mentioned before, is to make sure that before the town potentially takes ownership of it or gets approved as a town road, that it's up to standard. But that's me. Again, it's full board, and it's the board's decision.
I'm leaning more towards the sprinkler system if they're not gonna go with the fiberglass.
Leaning the same way?
Then the town doesn't have to worry about it at all.
I'm also thinking about house insurance. They're gonna ask, what is the capacity of fire suppression in your area? And this area is so remote from either Raymond or Nottingham for assistance, that I would also go with sprinkler.
Yeah.
Yeah, sprinklers are gonna help, speaking from that world, for an insurance standard, it will help a home, will help an individual's homeowner's insurance versus a cistern, because a cistern's not pressurized or anything, so it's doesn't have the same quantification as a true, fire hydrant does,
Right.
which is coming out of a pressurized water system.
Would the neighbor's insurance be affected by not having the cistern? Or if the cistern was in place?
Not-
Does insurance get into that?
Not in my understanding, because again, most carriers that I've spoken to in the past, if it's not a pressurized water system, they don't count it. And they call it alternative water source, but they generally don't look at that as the same as and then it also goes.
Can you please talk louder?
Yeah, I'm sorry. It also, there was a question about, do insurance carriers, and I can only speak towards some of that, do insurance carriers look differently if a cistern is in place versus a hydrant, for other homes, or versus sprinklers? And there's a couple of factors usually that go into homeowners insurance rating, that I'm aware of. One is distance to the fire hydrant, fire department. So if you're over 5 miles from a fire department, you're usually in a protection class 9. So it's usually, protection class goes from 1 to 10. And if you're over 5 miles from a fire department, you're usually in protection class 10, meaning you're unprotected. So, I don't know what the distance to Raymond is on this, to this site, but it's definitely well over 5 miles to the Nottingham Fire Department. So it definitely falls into that unprotected area. So again, I guess that's outside our purview anyway for this discussion, but, so for the individual homes that are being built, having sprinkler systems in the new homes could potentially help them with their insurance. But obviously, it doesn't do anything for added protection to any of the other homes that might be built on this, or that are currently existing on this road. And I think that's the plan sometimes of the planning board, is sometimes we look at off-site improvements and things of that nature, to try to make things a little bit better. Subject to, the scope of a development. And that's usually where hydrants come in, cisterns come in.
One of those things, right?
Cisterns, sorry. So again, it's up to this board. So I guess we have 4 or 5 options to consider, but regardless, whatever option we consider, someone's gonna have to make a motion one way or another. But there's still discussion. If anybody has any further discussion, please chime in.
Are you ready for a motion?
Sure.
Mr. Chair, I move that we recommend that the project for case 22-011 SUB located on Moores Road be allowed to have sprinkler systems in their new homes
Second.
And that is the versus the,
versus the cistern.
So it's a motion by Ms. Mooney and a second by Mr. Davies. And if I understand the motion correctly, it's to allow the applicant, in lieu of a cistern, to install, alternatively, to install sprinkler systems in each of the new proposed homes.
That is correct.
Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Ed, there's people out in the audience that never got a chance.
Yeah, this is, because this is a conditional approval, we generally don't open the, this is just a change to conditions. We generally don't open the public hearing part of it. The public hearing piece was closed. But, and we have a motion already on the table, so to take public comment at this point is, so if you, since we have a motion, we shouldn't open the public hearing at this point. If you want to table the motion or withdraw the motion, I can open the public hearing if the board so wishes.
Mr. Chairman, I withdraw the motion at this time.
Mr. Davies?
I agree.
Okay, so we're gonna withdraw that for a moment. And I will, go ahead and open a public hearing on this. I'm gonna just ask to keep the discussion limited. And again, it's only to this one piece of the application that we're considering, but if you have something you'd like to say, please come on up to the table and just, identify yourself, and please direct comments this way.
Eric Desolate, Morse Road, 19. My house already burned down. I live on the water. It's still burnt down. The time it takes for the fire department to get there, I think the cistine and sprinklers would be a good idea, because it's all woods. The woods catch on fire and we're all screwed. Basically. My house burnt down 7 years ago. Raymond was there first. Nottingham showed up like 20 minutes later. So, I mean, you gotta think of the surrounding area also, where where all these houses are being built. There's a lot of woods. So, yeah, I get the sprinkler systems in the houses to protect the house, but what's gonna protect everything else? That would help. I mean, yeah, you got the lake there. They had the lake there for my house. They didn't use it. So, I mean, that's things to consider.
Sure.
Thank you.
I appreciate that. Thank you, sir. Is there anybody else that would like to make a comment?
My name is Barb Heyer, and I'm on Moore's 27. Just a couple of questions. The announcement for this meeting was 2-3 weeks ago that we got the certified mail. So did you do your homework on all the aspects of this proposal?
For the change between cistern types and
Right.
such. So that's where individually, we've had a chance to look. We have SRPC as our contractor planning service. They also sought out information from additional towns, and we sought the input from our town professionals, which are the town fire chief, and we looped in the town administrator as well on that.
So the fire department gave you information about the cistern versus sprinklers?
Not any revised information. We have an original letter back from when this case was originally heard with requirements or what they were looking for fire suppression systems. But we did not get any revised information or any additional information for tonight's meeting.
Okay, my other question is, are the sprinkler systems electric? Are they on, are they wired to the house?
I'll let when the applicant comes back up, I'll let them confirm, but my understanding is they're usually pressurized.
So even if the power went off, they would work?
That's yep.
So that will be looked into?
I'll ask the applicant to confirm that if that's the type of system that they would be putting in, if approved.
Okay, because, I mean, the power goes off on our area of
Significantly.
Nottingham all the time.
Sure, yeah.
So I just want to make sure that, both the cistern and the sprinklers will work if we choose both or one or the other.
Yep, I'll double check.
Okay,
All right,
thank you.
appreciate it, thank you. Anybody else that would like to make any additional comment? Okay, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing. It's so it's opened at 7:24, closed at 7:28. Mr. Geyer, if you could just speak towards that, for the type of sprinkler system that, if approved, because obviously there's homes on the other side. Whoa, geez, I forgot the name of the road. Two homes on that other road, Johnson, that
Yeah.
were approved with sprinklers.
I'm not a sprinkler expert, but I believe that they are pressurized, but they will follow the NFPA and the building code.
Right. Yep. And I think that's generally the standard, because obviously, even if the power goes out, the electrical fire is causing it, so if you lose power, those aren't gonna work. So that brings it back to the board. We've had some additional comment from the public that live in that area. So, don't know if that changes anybody's mind or want further discussion. Otherwise, I think a motion is in order.
Mr. Chair, I'm going to present my motion again regarding case 22-011-SUB Moores Road to permit the applicant to use sprinklers for a fire suppression system in lieu of a cistern.
And I second again.
So that's a motion by Ms. Mooney and a second by Mr. Davies. Is there any further discussion from the board?
I do think that a cistern in addition to the sprinklers would be nice, but I don't think that we can actually put that on the builder for the homes that are further down the road. It's just not fair to them to do that. So,
Maybe a budget item to think about.
right.
And I
What,
guess-
adding cisterns to all the roads? Because you can't just add this road.
Well, I guess
One at a time.
with that is
Well, just-
sometimes you look at the location of the development, and that's why sometimes there's additional standards that get put in, or additional requirements. So when you have a development going in a pretty unprotected area, that's where sometimes stuff can get, become, additional requirements can be placed, as opposed to if this was right down the road from here and the fire department's there, then obviously that could make a big difference, but. So do you have a motion or do you have a second? Any further discussion from the board? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, that motion carries 4-1-0.
Thank you very much.
Approved. So obviously, that'll be the final plan set. You'll
Correct,
have to
yeah, we'll make-
revise, remove the cistern from wherever it was, whatever pages are in there for that,
Absolutely.
and add the notation to the plan about, all houses will be
Require
sprinkled. Yeah.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And Mr. McKinnon is seated and rejoining the board at the table. The next case is 23-004-SUB, Residences at Fort Hill, Smoke Street and Fort Hill Road. This is a continued case. The applicant has requested a continuation to our December 13th meeting. And just as a point of order, a couple of these cases were scheduled for our second October meeting, which we did not have a quorum for due to some illness and others not being in town. So we had to postpone that meeting to tonight. So some of these were originally continued to that night, and we're considering the additional request for continuation to tonight, so. Is there any discussion from the board regarding that application? I believe the reason was that the applicant was making some changes based on our last meeting with them and the waivers and some of the other things that came back from that.
Because I think I wasn't able to attend I think the meeting you guys voted on a lot of the conditional use and waivers, so I assume
I think all the
some, I
waivers-
think some were revoked and some were approved.
Yeah, so the applicant revoked some of their conditional, some of their waiver requests.
Curbing and stuff.
But then everything else was, yes, we went through all the waivers and conditional use permits and acted upon them.
So they're just responding to CMA comments and everything else.
And any changes from us that we had regarding those permits. Yep. So a motion to continue to December 13th at 7 PM would be in order.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we continue case 23-004 sub-residences at Fort Hill and Smoke Street to December 13th, 2023, as requested by the applicant.
Second.
So there's a motion by Mrs. Bascom, a second by Mr. McKinnon to continue to December 13th at 2023 at 7 PM. Any further discussion? No, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, that motion carries 6-0. Next case is case 23-005 SIT Nottingham Business Park, 145 Old Turnpike Road. In this case, the applicant has requested to withdraw their application without prejudice. So I think anytime we've already acted on completeness of an application, it's best for the board to make a final motion for that.
Mr. Chair, I move that for case 23-005 SIT, Nottingham Business Park, that we allow the applicant to withdraw the case without prejudice.
Second.
So it's a motion by Ms. Mooney, a second by Mrs. Bascom to approve the applicant's request to withdraw the case without prejudice. Any further discussion?
I'll stay here, but I would have to recuse myself since I'm not a direct voter, so I just won't be voting.
Sure, so Mr. McKinnon recused from that. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the motion carries 5-0. And Mr. McKinnon is once again back on the board and participating in the next case, unless he chooses to recuse. Next item on the agenda is a new application. It's case 23-009 SUB, White, 59 Whites Grove Road. It's an application from Scott Boudreau, Boudreau Land Surveying, on behalf of Jonathan White, requesting planning board approval of a two-lot residential subdivision. The property is located at 59 Whites Grove Road in Nottingham, New Hampshire, and is identified as tax map 63, lot 47-5. We have someone for the applicant that'd like to come up and introduce yourselves and give us a quick overview of what you're looking to do, and then we'll bring it back to the board to discuss completeness of application and go from there.
What about facing you or not?
If it's the same that we have, then I think the audience is fine.
Good evening, my name's Scott Boudreau from Boudreau Land Surveying. I prepared a minor subdivision plan for land of Jonathan White, 59 Whites Grove Road, tax map 63, lot 47-5. Currently just over 6 acre lot right now as it exists. I want to propose to cut out just a smidge over 2 acres on Route 156 for a family member.
Pretty simple, thank you. Mr. Haney, you had a chance, I know you've provided a staff comment, chance to review the application. Is there anything in there that you feel would preclude us from accepting this as complete?
No, the applicant's not asking for any waivers at this time. So I think as it's before you, it is acceptable to begin your review.
So the first part of any case, for anybody that isn't familiar with the process, is the first thing we have to do is act on application completeness before we can discuss the merits of the application. So it's kind of like us taking ownership of the application. So we have to find it either as complete or not a complete, incomplete. So would anybody like to make a motion regarding the completeness of said application?
I'll make a motion that we accept case number 23-009 SUB as complete.
Second?
So it's a motion by Mr. McKinnon and a second by Ms. Mooney to accept the application as complete. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, that motion carries 6-0. All right, now we can get into more. of
I'll
the-
also make a motion that this case is not a development of regional impact.
Second?
That was a motion by Mr. McKinnon and second by Ms. Mooney again? That this application is not a development of regional impact. Any further discussion on that? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, that motion carries 6-0 as well. So again, that seems like a formality in some cases, but we're supposed to make that motion, act on that on every application, based on individual, the scope of an application, whether or not it qualifies for development of regional impact, which this does not. So Mr. Boudreau, is there anything, I know you gave us a quick scenario, a synopsis of it, anything you wanted to add before we start discussing and ask questions?
I don't think so. I think everything's pretty straightforward on this plan.
And no waiver request, no conditional use permits required. Mr. Haney, anything else that you wanted to add before the board gets into our discussion?
Well, I felt like Ian was sure to bring it up, but I did note that it looked like in a couple of spots that there's some extra monumentation that might be required.
Hey, John can confirm, it's right here on my,
Somewhat.
Extra monumentation that's confirmed, we're supposed to have it every 300 feet. The new lot shows what appears to be significantly more distance than that. So as part of the condition approval, I would suggest, assuming the board moves forward with condition approval, board would ask that they meet regulation 11.8 regarding intervals of monumentation. I did make a note, asking the applicant to confirm that this existing gravel drive off of Raymond Avenue is in fact, something that the applicant has, or that the new homeowner, landowner would have access to. It does cross a utility line. Utilities are very finicky about who crosses over their lands. That would seemed like a prudent, question to ask, seeing as how there isn't really any other mention of access onto the lot off of Raymond Road. There is a stone wall there, so it just might be something worth inquiring about.
One thing that I had a question for, I went and walked the lot. And my problem that I had was, I expected to see stakes with markers and stuff. Because I couldn't tell from the white property over there where the road goes down to the other neighbor's house down there, into where Brad Bruno's house is right there, and where the stone wall is. I walked around, and I was hoping to see markers so that we could actually see where this I could see where the lot is. I mean, I saw where all the brush piles were, I saw what he does, I know out back it drops it drops heavy after that stone wall. You probably only go, I would maybe say 30 feet, maybe 50, but then it drops real hard, and I was trying to figure out how far does that go back after that, in that hill? But you left me no markers, nothing for me to see. So that, I mean, when you're asking in front of us, and I mean, I've been on this board a long time. I haven't seen you here. So for future reference, when you do this again in town, make sure you put markers out, because we are, obviously, the landowner gives us permission to go step on the lot for the subdivision, but whatever you wanna call it, But it was very disheartening that I could not find where it started, where it ended. I know where the driveway goes in, because it's Brad's driveway, you're gonna split off there, I understand that. But I had no idea of anything of how far it's going down. I lived in the area for my whole life, so I know the area, but I just didn't know where the 2 acres was actually cutting off. And because Brad cleared out all that land right next to it, so I was trying to see, well, where is his property line towards where this new piece is gonna be? And I couldn't see anything. So for me right now, because I was looking, well, where are they gonna build the house? Is it gonna be up front? Are you tearing down the ancient stone wall that's been there for 200 years? Or longer? Is the house going right on this stone wall?
Well, the house hasn't been,
Again, I understand, but again, these are things where, trying to figure out, where the lot is, how far back. I mean, you could go down the hill with the driveway and it could be way out back there. They could put out, just like that neighbor did next door. He's got the long road that goes all the way and then goes down the hill, and he's sitting down there. Again, I have no problem with the subdivision. I'm not, whatever, he wants to put 2 acres, split it off, he's got a 4 acre lot, put another 2 acre lot. Doesn't bother me one bit. But I'm just saying for you, it's tough for us as a board members to go onto a lot that somebody's subdividing and we don't know where anything is. It's just vacant land. So I couldn't tell anything. So that's the only thing again, not against it in any way. I'm just letting you know that if this gets postponed or this doesn't get decided on tonight, you might want to go back there and stake it for us if we need to go back and look at it.
Mr. Pedro, I have a question. Is there any road frontage for this proposed lot? I see White's Grove here, but then there's a lot in front. that
That
runs
is,
on
that
the
is the
road.
six.
That is the lot. That lot towards 156 is what is being proposed.
The rectangle. So right now, it's kind of
And
a,
this is what they were questioning, is the access off of,
Okay, because I was looking at this
This-
proposed lot. Okay,
I guess this is the parent lot, is what you'd say, this is, and all of this belonged to it at one
all
point.
right,
so
thank you.
a couple of questions I was hoping you could clarify is, well, one, obviously, it looks like this, towards the back of this parcel or to the left edge of it, if you're, I guess the western edge of it, it looks pretty steep. Any idea what those slopes are? Are they 15%, 10%, 20, 25?
I didn't calculate the slopes, but
They're outside, I guess they're outside
yeah.
the tightest area looks like it's outside the building envelope, but
Because don't we have a slope for driveways?
we do, I mean, obviously, the front part looks a lot flatter
As long as the house is up
than,
front.
than towards the back. Obviously, as you get further back, that's where the slope begins.
Yeah, John said it dropped off.
Oh, it does.
Yeah, honestly, I think they're gonna put the house in front of the stone wall. The well is in the front, septic's gonna be in the back where it starts to slope.
Again,
And then the other question was, so is this gonna be a shared driveway? So is that curb cut that's there existing, is that how the parcel next door, which this is Wayno, lot 47-4, is that how they access their parcel, or?
Yep, they're currently using that driveway.
So that brings up, we have regulations for our shared driveways that I guess on the current lot, we can't do much about, but the new proposed lot, the driveway's supposed to stay on the property line. So you'd have
Similar to
to,
the Priest Road application that we
Right.
saw last year.
yeah, so you'd have to hug that property line.
If I recall, we did, with the Priest Road application, is the same thing, it fell like just to the side of and that was also because of existing stone wall openings, but we did, usually the shared common driveway requires an easement.
It does require an easement too, yeah.
So there needs to be something there. I don't know the code off there's a shared driveway, or I think we use common driveway, so likely we'd probably wanna see some sort of easement benefiting 47-4, assuming there isn't. So that again, I assume, I know one of the things I noted is that I'm definitely for using the shared driveway being on a DOT roadway, and I'm sure DOT would also like the same, so. I know you noted that there'll be state subdivision, but I assume there'll also be a DOT permit for this as well. Did you have anything else before I?
No, those are my two biggest questions.
I also just was curious if, kind of a two-parter, I noticed that the topography was from the field verified New Hampshire granite LiDAR. You know, the area I was kind of focused on was on the west and the east side of the new lot, the 30,000 envelope. It does tighten up along those setback lines. I just want to make sure you're right at that 30,000 pretty much. Making sure that those are not 25% slopes, because then those have to be excluded. This kind of goes for both lots. I think you're using the term contiguous upland. I do that too on some of my stuff at work, but it's a little confusing because the town uses like more like a buildable area, so we don't care if it's like, because upland will sometimes be from like the edge of a wetland to wherever. The buildable area, I think we call it the lot, it's kind of baked into the lot envelope definition, is we just list like everything exclusive of the setbacks. So you're kind of showing the 30 by 100, the 300 by 100 box, but I don't think we usually care about the uplands, but it's, this goes more so to the parent parcel down by White's Grove. You were calling out 66,000 square feet of upland. I know that that's an existing home and everything, but I don't know, I'm just trying to look at the scale. It doesn't look like that lot, I don't know if we've seen this before, wouldn't actually be able to provide the 30,000 of lot envelope area, because that has to be exclusive of setbacks to wetlands and building. But again, that's the existing portion of the lot, so I don't know how we've dealt with that in the past.
In the past, so we don't want to make a pre-existing lot non-conforming, so, or if it's a pre-existing non-conforming lot, so it looks like the house may be within a little bit of a setback. We don't want to make it more non-conforming, so we want to confirm that we're still leaving a lot, that by creating a new lot, we're not then therefore taking away the conformity of the parent parcel. So I think what Mr. McGinn's getting at is to show that the parent lot parcel, that area does meet the current,
Basically exclusive of setbacks, it has to provide the 30,000 square feet of area.
yeah.
And I do believe though, that I guess I'll call it the middle piece between the wetland and the new lot, that's the one that sits in the center of the page. That doesn't, I mean, I did a little bit of scaling, I think it's just under 25%, at least based on these contours, it looks like it's in the 15 to 20%, so that would be more than 30,000 out there and technically meet the requirements. of showing 30,000 for the parent parcel, you know, what's being left on 47-5. So I would just double check, I think it's in our subdivision regulations, the definition of lot envelope kind of gets into that. It's probably where you might have saw the original 300 by 100. But then there's a couple things like unfit for building, and it basically just means exclusive of setbacks and stuff. And on that same line, I just wanted to, on the new lot, your line for the 30,000 square foot shows it currently, but the utility easement would also likely have to be excluded, because that's not something you can build on. So that'd be similar to like a building setback. You can't build onto a utility easement, so that would have to be excluded from a 30,000 square foot envelope. Yeah, I just thought that was it. I think that was, oh, and then the last thing was just, this is really only down by the parent parcel, and this kind of goes towards more so of showing some of those updated buildable areas, is just showing the wetland setbacks. So I saw that they were classified as poorly drained wetlands. So that is a 50-foot structure setback, which again, it's already an existing home, so that would be a non-conforming if it was a pre-existing non-conforming. And then also there is a 75-foot setback. It'd be important to just show some of those setbacks, especially if we're gonna go to that middle piece, the back of the parent parcel of what we're gonna leave. If that's gonna be the area we deem meeting the 30,000 minimum, we wanna make sure we're showing those setbacks on both sides of that wetland too.
I mean, I'm not following, you know what, as many years I've been doing this, you're talking about the 4-acre parcel.
Yeah, so the 4-acre parcel, so this,
The house has been there for 25 year, whatever,
right,
25 years. I know the land that it sits on, you're talking about making sure that that meets its setbacks from the wetlands?
so the practice of what we've always done is that this, you know, say they wanted to strike the line down here and actually
Yeah.
kind of flip-flop the ratio and give the Raymond Road frontage more of the 4 acres, and the 2 acres would be sitting on the existing house. If they were to do that, I don't think, like, this would not be, it'd be all non-conforming. You'd be creating a non-conformance because this existing house between the wetland and White's Grove would not be able to provide the 30,000 square foot lot envelope.
Because it's in, you're saying it's in wetlands?
Because of the wetland setbacks and the building setbacks, because if you look at just the scale of, and you can just kind of, the scale of what this, that's 30, there's a rectangle there, basically within a 2-acre lot, you barely have 30,000 square feet within the setbacks.
You know, of all my years, and again, I've been 48, you know, walking by there, the only wetland area, there's a power line that runs there, then on, adjacent to that power lines is where it's wet. His property is up on the hill from where his house is, and it's never been wet, ever.
Oh, I know, but there's wetlands that run, I mean, they've delineated them as running through the property. So this is a wetland, there's a little wetland channel, probably looks like it loops around and goes towards the lake.
Well, because it's all the hill, from everything on the hill is
Right.
going into that little area there.
So because of that, though, it creates a break in the upland area, but then it's more specific to our buildable, our lot envelope calculations. You have to exclude all the setbacks from that and list, and show 30,000. So what I think is, I think this lot's gonna be fine because this area in the back that they're gonna retain in the 4 acres, the up the hill portion, I don't think those are 25% slopes, which means they're usable land. That's gonna be over 30,000 square feet. But what I'm saying is, the reason we need to list it is because if they had flip-flopped this line and drew like the line down here, and the 2 acres was being given to the White's Grove house, I don't think it would be able to meet the 30,000 requirement within all the setbacks. And even though it's an existing house, we'd be actually creating it, it's conforming now, we'd be creating a non-conforming lot in terms of our subdivision regulations.
But that's not what they're talking about doing.
Correct, but we have to show, like, if you're gonna show that we can't just like exclude the existing lot from all of our, like, if we're gonna require buildable area calculations, we have to have it for the whole subdivision, which is the parent parcel plus what they're breaking
I
up.
don't understand what you're saying.
See, again,
So basically, you can't,
I mean,
By the nature of the subdivision, if you're taking a lot that
Yeah.
could be considered conforming because it does have,
All this
if it
area.
does have 30,000 square feet up, you know, if it does have the area to meet all our subdivision regulations without the subdivision, but then by doing a subdivision and creating a new parcel, you then make the parent parcel more non-conforming by getting rid of the 2 acre, by getting rid of the 30,000 square foot, building envelope. We've created a non-conformity. So the way it's usually been done with subdivisions is they have to show both parcels continue to meet the subdivision regs, and zoning regulations. Or confirm that by doing so, you're not making a parcel that may be non-conforming, more
We're
non-conforming.
non-conforming, yeah. It's also a case of
We
if there
have.
was no application for subdivision, it
We
could
have
exist as is.
Done that.
Yeah.
I
we did
see,
it.
I see you looking, but we
Reached
have,
forward.
we've made sure that we aren't making a non-conforming lot. And that's why it's usually a bigger deal when you're dealing with smaller acreages.
Yeah.
But this gets right into what I was talking about before, though, about the fact that our setbacks steal a lot of land from people being able to use them. And I seriously think we need to take a look at that. You know, you're taking 50 feet all the way around the property and making that non-usable to every single landowner.
But on a 2 acre lot, so a lot that's 84,000 or whatever square feet, 50 feet is about this distance of this room, so
It's
it's,
the entire way around the property. You're making that not usable on the lot. I think we need to
It
take a
does
look.
keep to the rural character of Nottingham.
Yeah, a whole lot more than those open space developments do.
well, those space developments have a 100-foot buffer around the entire development, so it's.
Maybe we should be looking at our master plan.
I think that, I mean, the overarching thing here is that it's one of those cases where if it were to remain as is, it's
Not an issue.
not an issue. But when you submit an application for subdivision, we have to review it against so whether they were breaking off
Current
10 lots or whatever the current regulation is, that's what you have to comply with. So I think it's going to work because they have that, I guess, the middle piece there between the wetland and the new property line between the 2 lots. But we just have to because we have to make sure if we're gonna sign a plan that it shows those areas as conforming. So it could possibly not conform between the wetland and White's growth, but I think it's going to conform in the back. I just wanna make sure we're labeling the areas within the setbacks.
But then that would also mean that those remaining 4 acres wouldn't be able to be further subdivided, because then we would be making a non-conforming lot. So it would have to stay 4 acres.
Right, I mean, you couldn't do
Yeah,
a
and
lot line
you
adjustment
could-
as well, to move that land to
Or
somebody else.
backlot subdivision.
Right.
You can't do a backlot once we.
Right, and wouldn't, yeah, so, I mean, theoretically, right, and the reason you wanna show that buildable area in the back, right, is the scenario, and we've run into this, where you basically prove if somebody decides to tear down the existing house or it burns down and they want to build somewhere else in the lot, they either can build in their existing footprint or rebuild, or there is space elsewhere on the lot. Yes, it requires a wetland impact, but we've received some opinion in the past that doesn't always preclude you from considering that area, because a crossing is not like.
Pre-cut and dry, right?
I've always said the smaller projects tend to be the trickier ones. So I think that was really just, I think, some terminology to make sure that it complies with just what is the area in the setback. It can be just everything within the setbacks, excluding easements setbacks. What is all that space? And I think that's just clear on the plan too, because that's what we always look for. Everything else is fine. The state's gonna have to look at it anyway.
Any other comment from the board? So the way I'm seeing it, I think there's some clarification that needs to be done. So obviously, to confirm, there's a buildable area that meets the buildable envelope definition of our zoning regulations on lot 47-5, and for lot 47-5-1. We'd want to make sure that there's some language for the shared driveway. Technically, that's supposed to be at the, shown on, for both lots, I believe is how it's written. Probably make sure that that the easement from the utility company doesn't preclude you from, placing a driveway within within that. But
Across
again,
somebody.
if you move the driveway towards the property line, that's probably not going to be such an issue. Normal standard condition, if it was approved, would be confirmation, either the driveway permit or confirmation from DOT that existing driveway is permitted and that the change doesn't negate, anything there. And then for me, I guess, if you're looking at it again, we'll just go back and make sure that these slopes that are within that lot envelope, proposed lot envelope of 47-5-1, that they're not over 25%, within that contiguous area, the lot envelope itself. And to Mr. McKinnon's point, you can't use the utility easement area within that buildable envelope, so you'd have to, take that part out. You have to reconfigure that line a little bit. Probably in the back.
Do you have any questions for us? Since we just blasted you with so much information that if your
We
head
still have
isn't
the public
spinning,
hearing, so
I'm
I'll still open the public
surprised.
hearing in a moment as well, before anything else, but.
Yeah, regarding the monuments along the sideline, I read that article, 11-8, I think you said it was. It wasn't specific on what to use there. Is that required to be bound too, or?
In the past,
It made specific about a metal plug and if it was a drill hole, but.
yeah, in the past, we do granite bounds on the corners, and then any of those midlines, we've allowed we've allowed pins.
Pins.
Yep.
Just, obviously, if they're over 300 feet, yeah, we've required pins to be dropped.
And circling back to the driveway, you said that had to go along the property line?
The way our zoning regulation reads for shared driveways, and we've had it a few times, is that that shared driveways, will stay on the,
Yeah, it's
Splitting the line?
yeah, it's Article 2C, so it's the residential zone in the zoning ordinance. It's number 2C under that. And just each single parcel is required to have a driveway. Shared driveways, the required driveway may be either a single or common shared driveway serving no more than 2 residences. Shared driveways will be kept at a common boundary. Shared driveways will be put in each owner's deed of record. We might have to look back, I don't recall off the top of my head with Priest Road I think the driveway, we kept it there, but I think requested that there be an easement at least placed over it. I don't know if it was on both parcels though, because the problem with that is can't show an easement on an adjacent parcel without their authorization. And I don't recall what we did on Priest Road though.
well.
There's another
you're talking
case
about
of
where the
this.
curb cut is. Because
Yeah.
the curb cut, I know we had one on Route 4, a few years that did go to zoning, and not that every case would be the same, but because the curb cut is actually within the state right of way, it's, I think it was allowed by the ZBA.
Yeah, I think if it's gonna be a common driveway, we do tend to request an easement.
Oh, yeah.
I would at least wanna see an easement over that corner to protect the abutter from, to be able to use that.
How far does the common driveway have to stay on the property line?
We don't actually specify.
That's what I
I've
thought.
seen a couple, some do go in, and then some, the second they hit their property,
Right.
they tee off, yeah.
Right.
This will literally probably, if it's where, again, the markers would be helpful, but from where Brad's driveway is to that is, I mean, it should tee off right.
It's basically,
Literally.
it's a car length. I think.
Yeah, if not even, yeah.
So what's
right
more
there.
important here is whether he can run the driveway under the utility easement.
Yeah, you would assume the existing driveway for the abutter is located actually on this property's frontage, so you would assume that that's kosher. I'm sure it's spelled out in that deed reference for the utility line for the other abutter.
So I'm gonna go ahead and open the public hearing for this case. So it's 8:04 PM. Public hearing will be opened. So anybody that would like to speak for, against, or has general questions about the case and anything we've discussed so far, please come on up. We usually invite those that are speaking for the application to come up first, and then against or just questions come up after. So there's not a lot of people here, so if anybody would like to come up, just, please come up to that desk because of the microphone. State your name and direct your questions this way, please.
My name is Wayne Thomas. I currently reside at 131 Raymond Road, which is, may I turn this map around?
Yes, please.
Which is this adjoining parcel here. And I'm not opposed to developing this property because I believe in property rights. I'd just like to suggest, though, that perhaps this lot division, this utility easement here is significant, and I know that the phone and cable lines are very low there. They could be raised. I think it's, I'm not sure what the minimum clearance for low volt is. I know it's 18 feet for power lines. Why couldn't this division be made, this lot be made larger, and that would move the building envelope back a little bit? This doesn't make sense. It seems like this lot could be made deeper, and then this building envelope could be moved back behind the utility easement, and that would solve their problem. And then is this shared driveway would be the curb cut here? There's an existing house here, it's not shown on the map. Or are they proposing a new curb cut?
The shared driveways, what's
So, okay,
anticipated?
the other, yeah, I guess this is the existing curb cut here, and there's an existing structure on this property.
Correct.
Anyway, my comment is, it seems to make more sense would be to draw this line, and that would give, this building envelope could be moved back a little, maybe even behind this stone wall. Just my idea. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to speak for or against or ask questions regarding this application? If you do, just come on up, just because
Yeah, I was just gonna offer that the reason we're not looking to put the building envelope behind the stone wall is because of the slope in the back.
So, okay.
I appreciate that. All right, so I will close the public hearing. It is 8:06 PM, so open to 8:04 and close at 8:06. So I guess, so obviously that's up to the applicant to get the property lines and parcels to be what they need to be, and depending on what they're looking to do. The town does like, nice rectangles and squares more than odd lot sizes, but again, or odd shapes, but this isn't that odd of a shape. It's, kind of an L in a rectangle. So that's up to the applicant's purview if they decide to do something like that, but that is obviously an option, but I think this board is, I would think that we would have
Cleared all this,
great opinion over.
but then I didn't see anything here. Just wasn't like staked and visible, like with, when you
Any
go
other
to.
comment or question from the board? Seeing none, so it sounds like we have a couple of things that we just need clarified, that, so we, continuances would be in order. Our next meeting is December 13th. And so we only have one meeting in December, so I always try to favor getting applicants back on as soon as possible, as long as it works for the applicant to be able to, revise plans or make changes, and it works on their schedule. Is that, December 13th, is that a date that is sufficient for you, or would you like to go into January?
No, I think that'll work.
Okay. If something happens, so we always, if we do make the motion to continue, we always ask for any new deliverables at least a week ahead of time, especially if there's changes in plans, things like that, to allow staff time to review, allow them to get distributed to the board members, for everybody else to do our diligence on it and make sure that we're doing.
That's December 6th.
That week ahead of
December
time
13th.
has to allow for these to be mailed out to us though, and Alana's being able to get them, so.
Yeah, so I think for,
Really, we're looking ideally the end of the month,
Right.
ideally. Try and push for that.
so maybe the 1st of December, since Alana works on Fridays usually, so that would allow us to get the materials and then get them out to everybody in sufficient time. And it is a minor subdivision, meaning it's only 2 lots, so it's
And the only thing I'll add is if there's any questions, I even get confused trying to think about the buildable areas and how those get depicted. If there's any questions, you can feel free to feed them through Blair. And we can try and make sure that gets kind of sorted out, so there's no more questions on that. You know, you're not having to come back to discuss that with us. We could sort that out ahead of time if we had to.
And the only other last question or comment I might have is, I know this proposed lot doesn't fall within any kind of shoreline or anything else. I don't know what the distance of this one is. So if this parent parcel does fall within shoreline, we usually just add a notation to the plan somewhere on there that, proposed lot 47-45,
It's well over 200 feet off the shoreline.
yeah, but I think shoreline goes 250. So anyway, just confirm, if it does, we just ask that the notation be added. If it doesn't, then you just tell us that and we're good to go. So any other comment from anybody? If not, a motion to continue.
What are you looking for in the way of the driveway easement language? Do you want to see something, notations on the plan, or are you looking for an easement language? Because we had this, with, I think it's the Shea Concrete, they're still submitting to us the easement language, or deed language. Are you looking for, an actual easement that they have to sign with the neighbor?
Well, is that one different? Because that's not like related to common drives, right? That's
It's not
related
common
to-
drive, no, but it's something that would be a part of a deed. So I'm not looking for just a plan, I'm looking for,
So I think the difference there is that because something like an easement like this would be shown on a recorded plan, we do, the ordinance does say that the deed needs to reference it as well, but because it's on a recorded plan at the registry, at least we know that there's that legal entity go back. I think the difference is like when we have conditions that require certain language to be in a deed that doesn't necessarily go on a recorded plan. That's where I know there was question about the timing of that, and that's where it's like we would want to see it beforehand, I think. I don't recall ever requiring common driveway language, like draft deed language before. Only because it is on a recorded plan.
so referencing it on the plan is
Because
sufficient.
at that point, once it's recorded, the deed would refer to the plan, so even if it's missed in the deed language.
The neighbor's
it's-
deed won't. The
Right.
other person's won't.
Correct, so this is why it's similar to the Priest Road application where we're saying they wanna utilize an existing driveway cut, which doesn't fall right on the lot line, but there needs to be an easement added. We probably could look up what that Priest Road, I don't remember what the time frame was, but we got it right, I think we got it right on that plan.
Okay.
So we could look up how that was depicted.
I just want to make sure that they know what they're doing, and I want to make sure that I'm going to have whatever documentation I need. If it's just on the plan, then that's fine. I'm sure
Yeah.
they can obviously put that on there, but
That other plan you were mentioning that is out there, that was because it was added as a conditional approval.
Yep.
And then it was a decision that the deed, so I think that was part of why we have to see it before. it gets-
okay. I just want to make sure you
Yeah.
weren't looking for
I
deed language that I
appreciate
needed to expect and to review and that they needed to prepare.
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Tell you for the.
Yeah, the Priest Road.
Actually, it was an additional condition that the deed is to include the easement language for the shared driveway.
Right, and then, do we have the plan for that too on file? The
Yes.
final plan? Is that something you could share around?
Right now,
No, at some point.
oh,
I'd be more curious to see how it's depicted, but, yeah, I think we're good. It just
Okay,
got- it
as
just
long
gotta
as-
get
as
on
long
the
as we're
plan.
good, yeah.
Yeah, we always add that condition, because that's what the zoning ordinance says too, so.
Cool.
With that, I'll make a motion to continue. I'll make a motion to continue case, number 23-009 SUB to the December 13th, 2023 meeting at 7 PM, with deliverables, to the town by December 1st, ideally.
Second.
So it's a motion by Mr. McKinnon, a second by Mrs. Bascom, to continue to 12:13 at 7 PM with deliverables by 12:01. Any further discussion? See none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, that motion carries 6-0. All right, and like we said, if there's any questions, you can reach out and Blair will, can try to provide you some guidance.
All right, thank you.
I appreciate it, thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right, we're into our other portion of our agenda for tonight. We had a couple of things we've put as placeholders to potentially discuss. time period on multiple requests for continuance. I think this is something we want to look at as we look to update our subdivision regs, site plan regs. So basically, we've had some things that come in and kind of linger without any movement, without new material being brought in, without the applicants even coming in. I've sent out a few letters recently to applicants, just, requesting that they show up in person. So trying to make, maybe we should look at making that more of a formal thing within our subdivision regs and our site plan regs. And I think we should add that. Hopefully, maybe at the beginning of the year, we'll do an update, a public hearing to update those two documents. We have some appendices to amend and some plan copy numbers and things like that to amend. And things like that, so I think that'd be a good time to add something like that in there.
Yeah, I agree.
And there are towns that do it, so, cost, it might be, we'd have to maybe update our fee schedule, because there might be re-notification requirements, or we just put in there that they'd have to be re-notified, if they've gone on for a certain amount of time. We do not have any comments at the moment. Well, I guess, Mr. Moore gave us some for the fire chief town administrator regarding, subdivision regs or so I'd reached out prior to the case that was before us tonight. I reached out before that, just as we've had some other applicants questioning the cisterns and things of that nature. So I emailed both the fire chief and town administrator just saying this board is looking at our regulations, subdivision regs, site plan regs, like we usually do at this time of year. And if they have any comment or anything like that, I think they could change or it's integrated, or just general comments to us, to please provide them to us. I've not had any feedback to date. So that'll be kind of ongoing anyway. Warrant articles, I don't think we have any that it doesn't sound like we have anything that we're really pushing for this year for changes. So if anything does come up, we'd probably have to make sure it's on, as we start putting something on by our December case to start meeting the SB2 schedule. We might have a plan to sign tonight, which I don't think we have the
She says no.
piece, so we do not have a plan to sign tonight. If that comes in, since our next meeting's a month away, if we get it in between now and then, if you want to reach out to me, if I can make it in, I'm willing to come in and sign it if after staff reviews it and it meets the notice of decision. Not saying I can, but I'll try my best. Public comment, this is the time of night where we always reserve some time for public to come in and ask us questions, give us comments, just ask about the general planning board process. There's nobody here tonight for that, so we will move on. We have one set of minutes that we can tackle, September 27th. I'll let anybody else go first, and then I'll just have a couple of comments.
Sorry.
No, I know, I saw them in the folder, I just, the October 11th minutes as well. Those are short. So does anybody have any comment on September 27th? I'll jump in. One thing I'd noticed, in a couple spots, we referenced I think this is good, but also might be problematic, the website, like locations of files.
104?
But if these become like permanent documents, I'm sure that website could change. So the only thing I maybe recommend is saying, putting that in and then saying, or in file, or something like that. Or in case file, on record for the town. So there's a couple of instances of that. Line 175. Just trying to fix the way it reads. Mr. Beal pointed out that in the past, the yield plan was based on new lots within, it's just the way it's worded. Mr. Beal pointed out that in the past, the yield plan was based on any lots within the aquifer protection zone, required the larger area, not just a portion of them not in the zone. I think that reads a little bit better. And then my last edit was line 229, just changed to Mr. Beal suggested making 3 changes to the minutes, which he read aloud and indicated he would provide to Ms. Kinney after the meeting.
What did you do there?
I just stated that I read it aloud so that
Read aloud and provide instead of.
it's not,
and.
Oh, okay.
it's not, so it's not sounding like I edited the minutes without actually telling the board what my changes were.
Okay.
That's all I had for that set. I don't know if the board wants, if everybody's had a chance to look at the October 11th minutes as well. They're pretty short, they're 2 pages. We'll do them real quick.
What's John's favorite meeting of the year?
Well, this one's not doing too bad either. If we're out here before 9, we're like, whoa.
You gotta find something to do.
Yeah. So I don't have any changes to that set of minutes.
Oh, you got a note there on line 79. It asks if Mr. Davies was unseated.
Oh, I think that was mine, back in the day.
Was it yours?
Yeah. But he shouldn't be unseated because we didn't have a quorum, because we're still missing a.
Right, I know, but
Yeah.
they better him listed and voted for Ian. And really, he would have already been seated anyway for.
But he wasn't,
Okay,
so that's why it just kind of went with the flow.
but then,
Did I seat him to the right person?
You would have been seated to Sue, right?
no, Sue was here.
Or did you seat him for Shirley?
Right, we've got the Sherry's position
It's open,
is
yeah,
open, so
So-
he could be seated.
at any time.
Right.
Yeah, I'd have to go back and I took
Yeah,
that, I
yeah,
took my
standard
notes out
practice.
of my thing from that one.
But he wasn't, he didn't step down, so I just thought, just let it go,
Yeah.
because it was legal for him
we'll
to.
just-
Either way, there was a
Have that
vacant
status.
I think we're okay,
We're okay, yeah.
especially where's the motion to adjourn, so I think we're good. Thankfully,
Went away.
so we just strike that off there.
Okay.
Does anybody like to make a motion for the minutes of October 11th and September 27th?
Mr. Chair, I move that we accept the minutes for October 11th, 2023, and September 27th as edited.
Second.
So it's a motion by Mrs. Bascom, second by Ms. Mooney, to accept those minutes as edited. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, that motion carries 6-0. Fun time of the night where we get to go around the board and get staff, select board member updates. I'll actually start with Alana. You got to, so don't forget, you had a chance to attend some training a couple weeks ago. Any nuggets from that? You attend, didn't, oh, I don't know.
Oh, the clerk conference
Yes.
training? Yes. I think you're gonna ask me about that.
Put you right on the spot, I threw you right in.
Yeah, Lori would normally go to it, but she's been to a bunch of them, so, she let me go to the annual New Hampshire Town Clerk Association, conference, which was up in New Hampshire at the Attitash Grand Summit Hotel, which was nice. So it was a 2-day, it was actually 3 days, but I just went up, and did one full day and then stayed over. I actually ended up going home a little bit early on that Friday, but, yeah, it was good, just, seeing all the other town clerks and talking about issues with people in other towns and what they do and how people handle things differently. And you know, people talk from the DMV and Title Bureau, meeting and the Secretary of State, and, so it was good, and I did learn some, so it's good to refresh things and hear some updates.
So it's good to, yeah, get input from, see what other towns are encountering, what they're
Yeah.
doing, what we may be doing that's better, what they may be doing that's better, and what we can incorporate. So,
It's actually kind of fun, so.
Okay.
all right, thank you. Mr. Davies?
I have nothing to add.
Mr. Moore?
Select Board, well, welcome to budget season. We presently have some major cuts to be made in our budget in order to meet the 4% cap. That will be coming up in our meeting, I think, in November. Over there, 27th, I think it is, where we'll actually have it open to the public, where we'll be actually going through line items and making suggestions on stuff that needs to be cut. You know, we do have a plan, so that's a good thing. But there's gonna be some significant cuts. So, like with everything, with the way inflation's rising, the cost of retaining employees, it's just, everything's going up at an extreme rate that it's tough to,
Doesn't help when inflation's still twice our tax cap, exclusive of those other issues.
so that's one of the major hurdles that we'll see what's gonna happen. You know, I think we're gonna have it under control, but we're gonna see warrant articles.
Sure.
That's the, you know, but then, you know, the good thing about the warrant articles is you leave it up to the voters to choose. It's their money, they're choosing. So let them decide. If they want to come out and support it, choose it, and that's what they should do. If they don't, then the repercussions will be what it is. So, but it should be, that's our major right now. And we got some other, you know, business that we've done, but, you know, budget is really gonna be a point that's gonna be difficult.
Sure. Yeah, and no, no petition warrant articles at this point. I think it's still early.
Yeah, we
And
haven't.
we haven't received any for the zoning ordinance, so I think that, which, because it hasn't started yet.
I'm sure
November
there, I'm
13th
sure
is
there
the-
will be petition articles that'll be,
Every year there isn't.
well, but you know, I mean, the petition article, anybody that does those, the importance of those is, you know, or any of the warrant articles is deliberation now.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's still a chance for people, even with the warrant articles, to make changes and stuff like this, as it was done last year.
I was gonna say, it's happened.
So, but that's everything in there. I mean, we're going over,
Did I hear the highway department fully staffed
Yep.
now?
well, that's all set. We're all set for our plowing. We got that all organized and all done, so we're ready to rock and roll with that. We're selling a old, it's not really that old, a sander. You know, which is actually, sent it out to bids, and, you know, it's like a $6,000, $7,000 sander, and the only bid we got was for $419.
Oh, jeez.
We did not accept the bid.
Well, I didn't think you would. Just saying.
So now-
Somebody's like, oh, a deal.
Since we went to the avenue that we were supposed to at first, the open bids, you know, sealed bids and all this, now we can openly just regularly advertise it. So it will now go on Facebook Marketplace, it'll now go on Craigslist, it'll now go, we can just regular sale.
Park it out front.
So we're gonna find some ideas on what to do, with that, and then we rejected the,
That was the
project.
standard that was on the pickup truck?
Yeah, but
Okay, yeah.
but that's, and then we were gonna get a new, well, it's an old type of sander, so they have new sanders now that they wanted to do, fiberglass ones instead of the aluminum ones, or whatever.
Double the weight or something like that.
Right, but we're not putting one on the utility truck, the highway department requested that the utility truck that we just purchased, put a sander on it, but the board voted no, for the expenditure, because
It
it's
has a
supposed to be
plow,
made,
right.
plow's okay, but not the sanded bed, sanded and salt in the back of a pickup truck just rots the crap out of it. And plus, it's only a 350, not a 550, so the extra weight on it just wasn't right for it. So we said no on that. The rec department also, for the rebuilding of the new playground for the kids here, because of the weather and because of the lateness of the season, that will be pushed off until the first of the spring. So that'll be going up. And they will be requesting things going out for volunteers for that, you know, people to help. They need something that's gonna dig a hole, you know, 4 feet down to lay the cement, so somebody doesn't have
Number
to
of
try with a
tractors
shovel.
in town.
Well, exactly, it's tractor, you need one of those thingamajiggies, so if somebody wants to come over with theirs, that would be greatly appreciated, I'm sure that would be nice. So if you know somebody that has one for the spring, but they'll be doing fundraisers on that, you know, just to let people know. Cause that was scheduled actually for next week or whatever, but because of the way the weather's looking and the cold and we could have snow tonight, who knows what the heck's happening, so. It was designed to push it off, and then the other thing was the buildings. We rented out a space of the old fire department. So for the next 6 months as a trial, to see how it works, try to grab some revenue off that, since the building's just sitting there. And then we had the discussions of how bad the maintenance of the buildings are. And the money needed.
Well, the SU office had like plumbing issues, right? It was pretty bad.
Yeah, the water there is just iron galore because, and then it actually clogged enough of the pipes where they couldn't get the water into the tank. Cause it's only a half-inch
That's
little
how you have
hose.
some bad corrosion sitting in the middle of those pipes.
So that's, that was another thing to address. So on top of things there. So yeah, it's all fun stuff,
Dry time of year is what you're telling me.
Yeah, so. What else?
Are those, so those are rented, right? So one of the things that potentially the town could look at are triple net leases, so it's.
What's rented?
If the town hall is SAU space, so is it rented to the SAU?
It's rented, yeah.
Yeah. Not the town, I'm sorry, that, so like a triple net lease, like a lot of your bigger places have, it puts all the maintenance and everything else on that tenant. Insurance, maintenance, upkeep.
But so the catch on that over there is, we could send it to, the Nottingham taxpayers are still paying for it one way or the other, so it really doesn't, we were gonna, cause that was part of the discussion too, and they were gonna
Inflate
do
the
that.
School budget instead of.
It's, one hand washes the other. We were happy that we could actually find a good use for the building, cause it is a nice old building, we're happy somebody in the town could use the building, and it was better for the town to have it. So that was really the reasons for letting the SAU or, have the spot.
Sure.
Cause it does benefit the town to have it there, it's, the building and everything like that, but. Yeah, there's, questions like even, this big dump out back, and I'll call it a dump, just the old part of the building here. Demolish it, do we just strip it down to the metal? Do we do that? The police department, has issues over there,
Sounds like CIP is gonna be a big,
the first meeting's coming up for that, but again, you want to see things done right, but you can't, I'm not saying the police department's getting a new building, but there's, people have motions of moving the transfer station to the pit on the other side of town. Well, that costs money, cause that building, they're doing everything they can to keep it going the way it is, but it is what it is.
well, it's also important, you can't move that and then now that, you sell that land, there's a landfill there, so the town never can get rid of that land, so it's just, you're just moving operations somewhere else, and that's still gonna be a piece of land that the town has to own pretty much in perpetuity, because nobody's gonna buy a landfill land.
Well, again, yeah,
Everyone can, but, yeah,
but you can't shut it down,
right.
gotta keep it running.
Can you put solar panels on top?
Of the landfill?
Oh, the landfill? Yeah, a lot of people do that. Well,
might have
actually, I
been-
don't know how open it is up
It might have been looked into.
It's
by
pretty
prior
open.
Town administrator, I
Yeah,
can't remember,
yeah.
but some landfills, I think there's it has to meet certain.
It depends on how it's been capped,
Yeah.
like, it depends on
Yeah.
what the capping structure is,
Yeah,
because you
yeah,
can't,
and
you
the
can't install
support underneath,
foundations
yeah.
through it, yeah.
Yeah, that landfill is, I don't know, it's on the DES marker of,
Yeah.
You can probably find documents on One Stop if you really wanna read
it's
them.
bad.
I have a couple thoughts, John.
Sure,
Um,
fire away.
Have you considered maybe sponsorship or an appeal to the taxpayers? Think of the town of Nottingham when you're making your annual gifts. And my third thought would be advertising on town vehicles, like Bessie's Lunch or something like that, and just sell advertising.
I don't know if you can do it.
Just a thought.
Yeah, I mean,
I think most people when they pay their tax bills, might just throw in another 20 or another 100 or not.
That would be absolutely wonderful.
Or not.
Since I suggested $50 and I thought I was being lynched out back to use the dump. I mean, the transfer station,
Which is
so.
very common in a lot of towns.
Very common, but not here in Nottingham, so.
You know, do you love it here, you know?
Well, with those things too, we had, Shelley Tennis is kept up, and, you know, one of the line items in the budget is the, it's like $3,000, whatever that they have, but that money that's, you know, it's for the food pantry, but it's also for assistance. So where if somebody in town, let's say one of the elderly people, they can't afford the oil,
Yeah.
that's money that goes in. So it's important that we don't cut that off the budget, because it is. But the problem is, we did cut half that 2 years ago. You know, because it's not an item they spent, but we already cut it in half. So Shelley's like, you know, if this winter's bad and they need it, and, you know, as the elderly population grows in Nottingham, we don't have the funds there to support it.
But a public appeal, maybe?
Well, that's what we said. You want to donate, go to see Shelley on Thursday and write a check for $100 to the Nottingham Food Pantry. Because then it'll go for stuff like this, it'll benefit.
Are they a
people in town.
separate, like 501?
Yes, they are.
That's the benefit of that.
Tax
Yeah. You get
So yeah, you can get that off there, but that's a different way to, you know, it's a great program, and there is a uptick, and, you know, it's, in that program. Not huge, you know, it's not like it's something that's,
But you're right, though, I mean, this is supposed
But-
to be an El Nino winter, which historically, last time we got, it was a very, very cold winter.
well, people, one thing is we have in Nottingham is we have an aging population that is still here.
Yes, we are.
Well, I wasn't pointing at anyone in general, I'm just saying though, but that, you know, I mean, you know, as you look at the aging population, you think of your life expectancy, you know, as much as people try to financially plan, it's just, the older you get, the more you're not going to work, so everything starts, these assistants,
Fixed income that doesn't rise, yet inflation does.
these assistants do become important. So, but you have to, you know, I mean, you gotta weigh out everything. It's fun. So, yeah, that's just a nutshell of what's going on.
Sounds like a lot.
Well, yeah, we're meeting all the time now, so.
Yeah. It'd be good to hear when CIP starts and Ms. Anderson's on that, to hear, you know, what's there, what we might be able to do on our board, you know, in relation to that, so. Mr. McKinnon?
Nothing for me.
Looking at the 2024 SB2 March town meeting calendar. So the important deadlines that are coming up, November 13th, so a week, first day to accept petitions to amend zoning ordinance, historic district or building code for consideration. So that's the first deadline that comes into play, so, and then we go from there, so, we're well away, just for us to remember though, for when town ballot comes up, is we gotta make sure that we got all the seats for this board listed. I can't remember when Ms. Sandler's term was gonna be up.
I don't know.
I'll have to double check, so it's either.
2 years?
Either she had a year
Yeah,
left,
2 more years, yeah,
or, so we'll have to make sure that gets listed
because this
appropriately.
is our first year.
Right.
Yeah, 2 more
But
years.
just, I just put it out there so that everybody gets, we can remember to, someone remembers it. I don't think I have anything else.
My turn? Mr. Demerit and I went to the New Hampshire Association of Conservation Commission annual meeting last Saturday. And it was just, you know, it's a bunch of workshops about environmental stuff, the usual, which is very good. But our keynote speaker was David Carroll, the fellow who has done a lot of turtle research in New England and a lot of it in Nottingham. Talking and educating the public about the turtles that are listed and threatened. So that was pretty special. He's kind of like the Ben Killam of bears, David Carroll. And we have scheduled tentatively a winter walk in the end of February, looking for animal tracks. Tom Ide, who's on our Trails Committee, he has a new book, and just this evening, he's at the library talking about his book about the bogs of New England. So everybody's been pretty busy.
Yeah, the library was pretty busy when I stopped there to get
Oh, that's-
tickets for the Scottish tea that's coming up.
Oh, that's good.
And the library parking lot was just about full.
Excellent, Good for him.
I did a big cleanup there the other day. I saw people doing a big cleanup outside, raking and everything else, volunteering, and yeah, our library, we're pretty lucky to have that because it's very active.
The Friends of the Library is very active, a good group of people.
Yeah, you should see their budget line item. If you like the library, better come support it, because they're asking for a 25% increase.
For salaries or,
Because you can't get the people.
Yeah.
And one of the things too about the people that they hire, because you can't get rid of them once you hire them, there's a whole code or whatever that goes with it, that it's, you know, they're really picky on who they're gonna have to work there. But we're the second lowest. We were the lowest. We managed to jump one town, but we're still in the region, the lowest around. And that's the reason why there's no more Sunday hours, limited hours here. They have to cut back on the usage in order to, and that's what it's gonna be.
Was it budget?
You're gonna have to cut your hours
And
in order
days.
in order to pick the pay, or days, which is gonna affect these
Programs.
events, all this stuff.
Well, we lost our most recent librarian because she took a job that paid almost twice as much. There we go.
So it's,
It sucks, their kids programs or something, that's stuff in town.
Well, that, and the computer access for any individual in town that maybe doesn't have computers, you know, from any age group. You know, that's another thing, just access to the internet. So,
no, but again, yeah, this is there too. So you're gonna find that this is where it doesn't become fun as being select, you know, on the board here. You know, so.
Yep.
You know, so if somebody likes something and they don't, it is what it is.
Remember, do you guys announce ahead of, when you get to the line item, you just like kind of start down, right? It's kind of like open season at that point?
You got it.
Yeah.
it's basically, yeah, be like almost a la carte with warrant articles instead. It's gonna have to be-
Well, yeah, I mean, we're gonna do where it is, and then we'll money like, again, we haven't discussed it, this isn't proven fact, I'm not telling you that it's not set in stone, 'cause we didn't do it, but, you know, like last year, we took $100,000 off the budget for the roads and stuff like this. Well, and then we had the 200 in the budget, well, guess what? Now it's all might be on as a warrant article. So if the town people vote,
No.
there's no new paving in town, no new seal coating in town, the roads are gonna go, and now we're gonna leave it up to them to decide whether they want us to put the $300,000 every year, and we're gonna take it off the budget. Something we shouldn't be doing, but
It was always a 50-50.
do you
wasn't
take
it?
off social services, do you take off this, or do you take off this? Where do you, something's gotta go. Very stressful, very, you know, there's no win situation on this, but
He's gonna get whiter.
But the deliberative session.
He's
so
almost
the
there.
budget, the select board has to present a budget that's within the tax cap. But the
Yes.
deliberative session, it can be amended and can go over and above that, is my understanding. So if
Yes.
residents feel strongly about something, like paving or something else, and you can always amend it at deliberative session and see if there's support to change a number. That's my understanding of it anyway from last year.
You can't add or remove, you can amend numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm good.
Blair? Anything else?
Yeah, so, there was a couple things I wanted to point out, that tomorrow there's a webinar. It's part of the monthly series that the Office of Planning and Development does from the state. It's during lunch, it's 12 to 1, and this one's on census data, and how they use census data, and also how to access census data. If you ever try to use a census website, it's kind of, it's so vast with its data, it makes it very difficult to navigate. So it might be a good primer for somebody that would like to be able to tap into that more often for either planning related things that we do here, or other things that you do with your own, in your own time. So it's, I'm pretty sure I sent the webinar link to everybody, maybe like a week or two ago. I'll send it again tomorrow morning, but just a heads up. And this kind of ties into something else. SRPC is, kind of slowly taking making a small push about what we do for the communities that are in our membership. We have a ton of data that is available on our website. It's already there, and it's usually pulled together and then presented, sometimes, in a typical spreadsheet format, but then a lot of times it's visualized, maybe a pie chart or something like that, some kind of graphic. A lot of communities don't even know we have it. So again, if you are looking for data, and this is not going to get very granular, it's going to be pretty high level data, but there's a lot of housing, a lot of demographic, things like that. That's all available on the SRPC website. It's already put together for the region and then also for individual communities. So a few pages on each community, publicly available census data is pretty much where it's all coming from. We are going to be updating it, so if you go there tomorrow, and then come back in a couple months, it'll be different data. It'll be probably looking at the decennial data that we have, but then also some of the American Community Surveys have been coming out, and they'll probably start integrating some of that as well. But yeah, it just might be something you're not aware of that's out there. One of the things that regional planning agencies have done in the past, and I remember when I was a city planner, like working for the town, tapping into the resources of the regional planning body, particularly around data collection, acting as like a data warehouse, was invaluable, during my time. So, if you have staff in town that are writing grants, sometimes they spend a lot of time looking for data. Well, a lot of it's right there; it's already prepared. So, if the library or something like that wants to write a grant for something and doesn't know how to find out how many kids in our school system over the last 10 years, what's the median household income? A lot of times they have a hard time finding it, especially updated data. It's always right there. So, use it as a resource, let people know. And then again, tomorrow is a webinar to help you do your own data collection through the census, if you're interested.
All right.
That might be helpful for the impact fees.
Yeah, that, and obviously, you might want to get the master plan,
Yeah.
having someone that's pretty.
Oh, yeah, we had that part of the
good on
discussion too,
the,
at that meeting.
good about the data, being able to pull that data and navigate that. It's obviously, that's a big part of the master plan update, is just revising all that census data, because it was,
Right.
it's always outdated in a way. It's just as it comes available.
Yeah, and this year was particularly troublesome because of the delays that it had between political back and forths, and then of course COVID hit. Canvassing communities was difficult, right? And preparing the data, so it was delayed. It is out. I'm pretty sure it's all out by now, but yeah.
Yeah, excellent. Alana, do you have anything else for us? So our next meeting is not until December 13th. We only have one this month, unless anybody wants to make a motion to hold the second one for any reason. So again, December 13th, sounds like we have a couple of items on the agenda for that night, and that's at the moment our only scheduled meeting for December as well, unless at that meeting we decide to hold another one. So anybody like to make a motion to adjourn?
I so move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All's in favor?
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Thanksgiving. Wow, is it already there?